Episode 39 of the Before the Score podcast. I'm Steve Samra. A lot of stuff to get to today, but the big news is, Dan, you're wearing the shirt. We all watched the press conference. I know Pablo is a little peeved about it. He's a little jealous. Steve Cohen, New York Mets owner, officially introduced today. Dan, you got the right wardrobe on, so I'll start with you. Tell me, what are your thoughts? Represent all us Mets fans right here.
So, I was very intrigued, clicking on. I really didn't know what to expect. I've honestly never heard Steve Cohen talk in my entire life, so I didn't even know what his voice sounded like. But I found out relatively soon what this guy was all about, and he pretty much said it. He's a fan. He bought this team as a fan, and I'm so surprised that he's like, Steve Cohen's worth a lot of money. We all know that because of his successful businesses. However, what he was saying was, I didn't buy this team to make any money. Like, he could lose money, all he cares. As long as the Mets win championships, he's happy. The one thing I was a little surprised about was, I'm surprised he took the bait on the whole, when do you expect to win a World Series thing? I mean, that's obviously just the New York media just trying to go out and get you. But other than that, I think he had a great press conference. He sounded great. He's very enthusiastic. It's just, I mean, how have we ever heard the Wilpons come out and talk like this, or had any joy over the Wilpons even speaking? Like, this was just a whole different phase of New York Mets baseball that I'm just so happy to be a part of now and be able to watch, because my God, I mean, he compared us, well, he didn't compare us, but he was saying he's looking at the Dodgers as his team that he wants to not replicate, but, get the Mets culture in there and kind of with this period of success do what they're doing. Man, I am just excited.
Yeah, I like Dan. I've never heard Steve Cohen speak before in my life. I was really impressed with what he said. Because most of the time you get these executives and GMs and owners, they come on and they give you the same kind of bullshit speech of, we're going to build a winner, we're going to do it the right way, we're going to be a premier team. But, like, you could tell that the way Steve Cohen was talking, like, he didn't really prepare any of this beforehand. He's kind of just, like, speaking honestly and speaking like a fan. And I think the most important thing that I took away from the press conference is, honestly, like, when I was watching Sandy Alderson talk after Steve Cohen, I've never seen the man smile like that. I've never seen the man that happy to speak and to be a part of the Mets organizations. You could just tell that the culture is a little bit different. There's a new breath of fresh air with Steve Cohen, and there's a little bit more optimism where he's actually not miserable on a job. I've never seen Sandy Alderson smile like he did today. So that was really encouraging for me.
Pablo, hold on. I'm going to let you go, but the Mets fans are going first today. That's the Mets time. Steve Cohen, this guy, I love the way he was talking. He is a straight winner. $14 billion. He said, I will not accept mediocrity. And he means it. He's speaking like a fan. It's just like if one of us got $14 billion and decided to buy the Mets. I think this is how a fan would run the team. And my most telling thing that he said is that he played a little Little League baseball. That's about the extent of it. He's not going to be in control of the baseball decisions. And that is what doomed the Wilpons. Jeff Wilpon with his grimy fingers all over the Mets. You saw these mediocre moves he made. Steve Cohen won't accept mediocrity. He's going to let the baseball guys do their job. And there may be no better baseball guy than Sandy Alderson. And especially for the Mets. He knows how they're operated. He knows what went wrong. And he still made the World Series with this team. He built up a lot of this core, and I can't wait to see what he does without the restrictions on him. Sandy Alderson, Steve Cohen, maybe Luis Rojas. They wouldn't really commit to him, but they kind of committed to him. We'll see what happens with that. But, man, it's an exciting time to be a Mets fan. And Pablo, Yankees fan, let's get a take on that from you.
Well, number one, like I said, last week on last week's show, this guy can talk all he wants. And obviously, as a Met fan, you guys, as every Met fan, I'd be excited if this guy were my owner. But you have to take everything with a grain of salt until you see what this guy actually does. Now, until I see Lindor in a Mets uniform and I see George Springer in center field and I see maybe a Trevor Bauer on the mound, I'm just going to still think, look, you know what? Maybe we might be competitive. But like I said, until I start seeing those big names on there, until I start seeing a new change in direction, that's you can only hope until you see something. But number one, as a Yankee fan, right, I like the fact that the Mets, they're doing whatever they can to sort of be good. I do like the fact that, they are trying. But as a Yankee fan, I also love the fact that they are trying, and in the back of my mind, I hope they try and I hope they fail. Now, that's just something where, look, it'll make me feel great as a Yankee fan because you know what? All these years, you know what? You hear all these Met fans and you hear the fans from every other sport saying, look, the Yankees, they bought their way to a championship. You know, they bought this guy, they bought that guy, they bought that guy. And if the Mets go out and do the same thing, I do not want to hear. I do not want to hear anything from any Met fan. I don't want to hear anything.
11-year-old Pablo is really getting pissed off at those comments, I bet.
Well, I mean, as a Mets fan, I'd obviously take a championship. However, that's not what's going to happen. You watch this press conference, and Steve Cohen made it he really drove this point into the ground by saying, we are building this team from bottom to top. He wants to, there's going to be some big names that he's going to buy. Of course, like he's going to go after some of the big guys in baseball, but he didn't say how much he wants to spend. He didn't say that's all he's going to do. He wants to really improve minor league teams and facilities to really get these players and get this farm system back to where it needs to be because, I mean, he dodged the bullet around or danced around the question of the Kelenic trade, which I don't blame him for. But that trade in itself, I mean, you getting rid of your best prospect there, that really hurt the Mets farm system. So now he wants to get that farm system back, like the Dodgers, which he alluded to, saying the Dodgers, they have a great core of players. They have a great farm system that they have, and then they're able to get these big market these big high-profile free agents, I should say. That's exactly what the Mets are going to try to do. And it's New York versus L.A. And where you want to go because that's the two places you're going to get the most money now. There's no question about that. Steve Cohen is not going to be able to bring in any player that he wants. But going against Pablo's point, there's going to be a lot of core players that the Mets are going to keep that are on the team now and trying to draft well and getting that whole farm system back to where it needs to be because it hasn't been in a good spot for many years for the Mets now.
Yeah, he mentioned that you can spend all the big money, free agent money that you want. You can spend all this money on these contracts, but if you're hampered by these contracts in 3-4 years because you're giving out $40 million to the Robinson Canos of the world, and you have these aging players who are underperforming on bad contracts that can hamper your team no matter how much money you spend. But baseball aside, I do one thing that also stuck out about the press conference is he took a little bit of a jab at A-Rod and the other ownership groups because he was asked about the other bidders. He goes, other bidders? I don't remember who those were. Who were they? So he took a little bit of jab at the other ownership bids because there was a lot of bad blood in that because they kind of try to drag his reputation in the mud and put a lot of hit pieces on why he shouldn't be the owner and why he should be in jail pretty much. So I take there's nothing bad about his press conference today. It was all positive.
Yeah.
Look, the number one move, in my opinion, that Cohen is going to end up making this offseason, I don't personally think it's going to be on the free agent market. I think that this guy is going to do whatever he has in his power to go and talk to Cleveland and get Lindor. I 100%, not 100%, but I really do have a feeling in my heart that the Mets will go out and trade for a guy like Lindor. They will take on his $21 million contract. And I think that's something where you trade him and you try to sign him long-term because this offseason, there's a lot of quality free agents. But when you look at next year, man, just the amount of free agents, especially in the middle of the infield, all these shortstops, you got Correa, Lindor, Seager, Story. That is a free agent class that might go down in history as one of the best ever. So I think that it starts this year. This year, I think he's going to go out and get Lindor. He's going to maybe part with one of those young shortstops that you guys have. And Lindor is going to be the guy moving forward. That's the first thing, in my opinion, that Steve Cohen is going to do as the Mets' top guy.
Now, the trade market, it remains to be seen what happens in the trade market. Let's talk about free agents right now because there was a report that an agent, after watching that press conference, his player reached out to him and said, go talk to the Mets. Go talk to the Mets right now. I need you to tell me, with this money, more money than anybody in the whole MLB, with this culture, less pressure than there is on the other side in the Bronx, could the Mets be the more preferred destination than the Yankees for players in the MLB?
No, I don't think they'll ever be a more preferred destination. I think the Yankees have the history and they have the winning culture that the Mets don't have right now. I think value-wise and big market wise. I think the Mets have to strive to be even with them. They'll never pass the Yankees, but they can be neck and neck with them. And I don't see any reason why, if they build a winner in 3-5 years, if they actually have some success and they're giving out these big contracts, they can't be on par with the reputation of the Yankees when it comes to acquiring and attracting free agents.
Yeah, overall, the landscape, you can't take away from the history of the Yankees. But if you look at it like basketball, you say the Lakers and the Clippers. I mean, the Clippers have Kawhi Leonard. You know, that's a very good player to have on your team. They're obviously the second franchise in that city. So you can't say, yeah, I mean, the Mets and the Yankees, yeah, it's probably a better spot to go to the Yankees overall. But, I mean, I don't think it's that much of a difference nowadays because, I mean, to me personally, it's not a rivalry. I don't know where Pablo gets all the Mets hate from. But to me, it's not a rivalry. It's an AL, NL team. There's 29 other teams, like Steve Cohen alluded to in his press conference, saying we have to be more worried about 29 other teams than just the New York Yankees. So I don't think it's that big of a deal. But when it comes to, you know, players now, I don't see much of a difference.
Now, until the Mets start winning year after year after year, and I'm not talking about winning World Series, I'm talking about you know, finishing above 500. Until they start doing that on a consistent basis, until they start showing that they can compete every single year, they will never, ever be a top destination in terms of a free agent. You know, when you're looking at New York teams, they will always be number two until they start bringing in a winning culture. The Yankees not only are consistent now, they have always been consistent, and they are a winning franchise. So I'm not saying it never could happen. Look, I hope it never does happen. But if, let's say, here on out, the Mets keep winning and winning and winning, and every single year they're right there, then maybe things can change. But until then, they will never, ever touch the New York Yankees.
History is history. Yankee Stadium's like a museum. We'll see what happens with Citi Field. They'll have to start putting some plaques in there. We'll see what happens. I think that the press conference, definitely a good start for Steve Cohen.
I've just a quick question. What do you think the return on the Indians trading for Lindor would have to be? Do you think Dom Smith has to be part of that deal for the Mets to be able to do it?
Personally, I don't think that Dom Smith or Pete Alonso has to be part of that deal for the Indians to do it. The Mets will be taking a lot of money from the Indians, who are strapped for cash, and the Mets have two young, good shortstops the Indians could possibly develop in Rosario, Jimenez, or Ronnie Murciano. So one of those three, maybe even two of those three, plus J.D. Davis, maybe one of the arms that Brody Van Wagenen got. Give credit where credit is due. He did draft very well. At least it seems that way. So I think that's enough to get it done, in my opinion. Now,
I do have, you know, an MLB insider or two that I have reached out on this situation about. Now, they don't think that the Lindor trade package is going to be – they don't think, let's say, for Yankees perspective, they don't think it's going to be a Clark Schmidt, a Deivi Garcia, Gleyber Torres type thing. They think it could possibly be a Luke Voit and other minor league type arm, or like maybe an outfielder. So maybe for the New York Mets, I say definitely. You have to look at Ahmed Rosario. I think that guy, if you're trading for Lindor, where does he even play? I mean, Lindor, he's your shortstop for the next 10 years. Or maybe, you know, for right now, because obviously he's the best defensive shortstop in the game right next to Andrelton Simmons. I think that it would probably take a shortstop, maybe a young minor league arm, but I don't think they're going to be asking for guys like Pete Alonso or Jeff McNeil. They want young, controllable talent, and they want young, controllable, cheap talent, and that's where they're going to go.
I think the most important thing there is that he just gets out of the AL. I mean, that's why you look at the Mets. It's like, you know, if he goes to the Yankees, he goes to the Astros. Not that it would ever happen, but I'm just saying, like, these top teams that the Indians are competing with every year in the playoffs, they're just shooting themselves in the foot. So him going to the NL, I mean, like you said, Steve said, the Indians are strapped for cash. I can't imagine that the return personally is really that big. And I think this is a no-brainer for the Mets to do if it's on the table. And I know we've seen reports. I forget who reported it. Someone just, it might have been Washington Post, or I forget who, or New York Times, sorry, that the Mets are pretty much one of the top targets for the Indians right now in this trade. So I hope these reports are right, because having Lindor on your team, like Pablo said, he is the best defensive shortstop in the league. And when he's hitting right, this guy could hit just as well as almost anyone in the league too. So he's a top 10 player in the league. It would be just great to have him on our team.
Well, we talked a lot about Steve Cohen, arguably one of the most well-liked owners in all of New York already. So let's talk about the other side of the coin here. Let's talk some basketball, some NASCAR before we get into football, because you know that's going to take all the rest of our show. The NBA draft next Thursday. Have some more on that next week. But report came out today that the New York Knicks, my team, James Dolan, unfortunately still the owner, we have the Knicks eyeing Russell Westbrook and or CP3. So one of those two Rockets point guards right there, former Rocket point guards. Should they stand pat, or should they make the deal for one of these guys? Or is it going to be worth it for the Knicks?
Well, I mean, it's weird because, you get that report with James Harden going to the 76ers, and now you got Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook going to the Knicks. I mean, I'm going to believe it when I see it. I don't really know what to make of this whole Rocket situation. I wouldn't be surprised if Harden or Westbrook is one of the guys to get moved. I mean, preferably if you're the Houston Rockets, you would want to see Russell Westbrook go before James Harden, just because James Harden's obviously a better player. But when it comes to the Knicks, you need all the help you can get. If you could get a guy like Russell Westbrook, you take him in a heartbeat. There's no question about that. Is it going to happen, though? I don't know. I think you look at more free agency with the Knicks. I know it's been every year we say free agency, the Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving situation, that never worked out. But I mean, like, you look at this year, I think Fred VanVleet is more of it's more of a realistic.
I ain't giving Fred VanVleet $20 million a year. He can go scratch for $20 million a year. Go shoot threes on somebody else's team for $20 million a year.
I know the market is going to be a little high on him. I mean, he has improved his games in the last couple of years since he's gotten a bigger role in the Raptors. However, when you look at it, the Knicks need someone, and I don't know if they could pull off a Westbrook trade. I don't even know if he's going to be on the market. I don't know how true these rumors are, but I think you got to look at free agency when it comes to rebuilding the Knicks here.
I've been hearing about Westbrook and the Knicks for many, many, many years. I'm sick and tired of it. This is a guy that clearly is very talented, but this is a guy who's a very me guy. And if you're developing a young team, especially the New York Knicks, if you want to develop a young winning culture, number one, the Knicks aren't close. Number one, they aren't going to be close for at least several more seasons. You want a veteran guy who's going to come in there and sort of be a leader, sort of be somebody to look up to, say, look, this guy, he's gone and he's won in other places. He knows how to win. He's a winner, and he's here to develop and help develop these young, talented players. This guy, very talented, but he is a me guy. He's a guy that demands the ball. He's a guy, personally, I don't care how good he is. He doesn't make the Knicks that much better, and it doesn't make much sense for a team like the New York Knicks to even pursue him. Continue to play and develop your young guys, and eventually you're going to have a team full of young players, and eventually free agents are going to want to come here. I don't think it's going to be any time soon, but eventually players are going to want to come back to the Knicks.
Now, you call Westbrook a me guy. Personally, I don't see him as a me guy. I see him as a guy who won the MVP, who averaged a triple-double 2 years in a row. First time it's happened ever in the NBA. Russell Westbrook, he's not a me guy. This guy, he willed the Thunder to the playoffs when he was the only guy there. He went to the Rockets, got them to the second round playing without a center. They didn't play with a center in basketball. How are you going to beat LeBron James' Lakers without a center in basketball? It was never going to happen. If he could shoot a little better, he would be easily top 5 player in the NBA. Everything else he does, he might be the most athletic player in the entire NBA. I think the Knicks could really benefit from a guy like Russell Westbrook or Chris Paul, because when you're rebuilding, a lot of people think you don't want to take on these veterans. You don't want to take on, as Pablo said, me guys, as Russell Westbrook has the perception of in the NBA. But you need guys who know how to win, who have won, who can teach young players like the Knicks have been dealing with. There's been so much losing over the last couple of years. At some point, you have to learn to win. You have to sneak into the playoffs as an 8 seed. You have to go in there and give the number 2 seed a fight in the playoffs. That's what Russell Westbrook can provide, and I think that's more valuable than playing some third-string point guard a couple more minutes every game. I think that's more valuable to the Knicks.
Well, when you look at CP3 this year with the Thunder, I mean, he did an outstanding job. I mean, that Thunder team has a lot more talent, young talent, than the Knicks do right now. But overall, you look at what CP3 and that Thunder team accomplished this year, and you got to say that's very impressive. So I know his contract is pretty large, to say the least, with
That's putting it
CP3.
lightly.
Yeah, but overall, I think he's one of the best veteran leaders you could get in the NBA right now. So I think the Knicks are begging for a guy like that.
CP3 would be a perfect fit, but I think after taking the year with the Thunder, obviously it's not where he ever wanted to go. It's not what he signed up for when he signed that contract with the Rockets. I think this guy proved that he deserves a chance to go win a ring, finally, to go win a ring. So I would like to see the Thunder try to trade him to the Bucks or trade him to a contending team that really can make some things happen. Even if you look at the Clippers there, a low reunion, I think that would be something spicy the NBA could get behind. Maybe finally get to the finals and right that ship, finish that journey that he started so early with the Clippers. He was really the first guy to go there and make them into something in LA. They were at the cellar for so long, and he really brought them above and helped them reach new heights. And to see him finish the job, that would be a hell of a story in the NBA.
Yeah, with his age, I think he has to realize, if he wants to get that title, he's going to have to take a pay cut here because no contending team's going to be able to afford that contract. But obviously he deserves – he's one of those guys in the league right now that deserves a ring the most that hasn't gotten one. But he's got to look at his own contract situation and say, hey, I think it's time to take a pay cut.
We're talking about championships now. Chase Elliott, NASCAR, became the third youngest driver to ever win his first championship. 24-year-old. This guy, my favorite driver, Dan's favorite driver. I was so happy to finally see my favorite driver win a NASCAR championship. Pablo, you NASCAR expert, you predicted it. I need to know, though, how many championships do you think Chase is going to end with? It's prediction time. He's 24. He might get 20 more years in that car. So I need to know how many championships feasibly do you think? I know you're predicting stuff way in the future. What's on the table for Chase here?
Well, my favorite number is 16. Now, do I think he has 16 in him? Probably not. But my other favorite number is 18. Do I think he has 18 in him? Definitely not. So if you take 18, add it plus 16, what do you get?
34.
Do you even know?
Exactly. So take that 34 and divide that by 2, and you get 17. Minus that by 5. 12. He's going to have 12 by the end of his career. That's what he's going to get.
I don't even know who has to follow that, but I hope there's less math involved with the next answer.
You know what? I agree with 12. I think the math checks out.
Overall, when you look at the NASCAR landscape right now, there's a lot of young, capable drivers with great teams that it's getting only more competitive. If I had to say, I would hope 3 maybe. He gets overall 3 or 4. I can't imagine getting more than 4. I know he's one of the most talented drivers in NASCAR. But I mean, but the way you look at it is, you get one of these drivers that does so well. You look at last year or whatever, it was Kyle Busch that was so well. And then he comes into this year, and what does he do? He can't do anything. They give Hamlin all those best cars, all the best pit crew. Every car that's the best, they're giving Hamlin this, and he goes out and wins 7. It's not because Hamlin's that much better of a driver than Kyle Busch this year. No, he's getting all the best equipment. Everything is going to Hamlin this year to get him that championship. You look at Hendrick Motorsports, you're bringing out a guy like Kyle Larson. You have Alex Bowman. You have William Byron. They're obviously going to try to push those names too because you want to get more money. You want to get more fans onto your team with different drivers. So Chase Elliott isn't going to get the best of the best all the time. So I can't imagine him going more than 4 with all this talent in NASCAR right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with Pablo here. I think because the argument's pretty sound. I think 12 sounds good. I wish 12. 12 would be nice, but with this chase format, no driver is gonna be able to dominate like in years past, like Dale Earnhardt, like Jimmy Johnson, because it's so wide open when you get to that last race. It's so wide open in those elimination races. You have to be perfect, really, for 10 races in a row almost. And Chase came on strong at the end. So I really can't see more than, let's say, 3. I think 3 is a good number for Chase. That puts him with some of the best of all time right up there. Puts him right up there with Jimmy Johnson and Jeff Gordon at Hendrick Motorsports. And like you said, it's a new day in NASCAR. There's so much talent coming into the sport. You're going to see some more of these more established drivers retire, but there's a lot of really good drivers in the pipeline. And the new car that's going to be coming out in 2022, I think that's going to even the playing field even more. Chase is a fantastic driver, and I really hope he gets more. But just to have this one, that means a lot to Hendrick, to Chase, to the fans, man. It's just awesome to see him get that one, especially so young. Let's move on to the NFL here. Finally, about 20 minutes in the podcast, we'll go to the NFL. A couple questions before we make our picks. Tua Tagovailoa and Josh Allen just had the best games of their respective careers. Tua, only the second one, so it's a little misleading. But are we seeing a changing of the guard in the AFC East?
I mean, what do you have to compare it to? Tom Brady's gone. Cam Newton's not the future of the New England Patriots. As of now, Sam Darnold's not the future of the New York Jets. So you're left with Tua and you're left with Josh Allen. Josh Allen, easily the best quarterback in the division as of now. I'm sorry, Cam Newton. I know he's not working with much, but Josh Allen has improved a lot this year, and he's been a lot more improved as a passer. He threw for over 400 yards on Sunday. So I guess in the sense there's a changing of the guards, but I mean, at this point, then there's not much competition. Sam Darnold is likely going to be traded after this season. Cam Newton, who knows what his future is in New England. So, I mean, yeah, you can't say much about Tua. So, this division is owned by Josh Allen right now.
I think you're underestimating Tua a little too much. I think the way he came out
2 games into his career,
I know you've been a Tua hater, Andrew. I really like this Dolphins team all around. I think that these guys can really, really give the Buffalo Bills a run for their money. And in the future, these two teams are still so young that it's going to be hard-pressed for the Jets. The Jets are going to have a lot of work cut out in front of them, especially on offense.
Jets don't have to worry about any other teams in the division. They have to worry about the New York Jets and winning a game first.
But yeah, winning a game, that seems like an impossible task right now. But the Patriots, of course, Cam Newton's not the future, but the Patriots, they have reinforcements coming next year. They have 8 people opted out for COVID. Bill Belichick, he recognized with the cap and everything, he said himself, they sold out to win that Super Bowl. They sold out to make the AFC Championship game. And now they're reaping what they sown. And now next year, they said they're going to be ready, reload, and I think he's going to try to get at least one more Super Bowl. So the Patriots, they're always going to be there as long as Belichick's there. Dolphins seemingly have their head coach, Brian Flores, got their quarterback now. Bills, same thing, and the Jets, they're lagging behind. It's a big, big offseason for the Jets because if not, they're going to be really far behind. Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, each had rough weekends. Belichick barely beaten the 0-8 Jets. Tom Brady, 35-3, I believe the score was. Terrible Sunday night performance. You guys, what do you think? They're decent on their own. They've proven they both can tread water on their own. But do they need each other to really achieve greatness?
Yes, and I'm going to start this off here. When you look at Tom Brady and you look at the New England Patriots, Tom Brady is the cream, and the New England Patriots are the Oreo cookie. Now, the Oreo cookie's good by itself. It might be all right. The cream is also really good, but on its own, it's not the best. But when you put the cream and the cookie together, they become America's favorite cookie. And like Tom Brady and the New England Patriots, when they were together, they were America's best team. They were America's favorite cookie. And look, Tom Brady, he's proven all that he could prove. When he was on that New England Patriots team, he was amazing. He was incredible. He put teams on his back. He put teams, and he brought them from the dead in games that they thought he was out. You look at that Super Bowl game years ago against the Falcons. Nobody thought that he was going to come back and win. Nobody thought, not even Patriot fans. So together, there was just this spark that I don't think any quarterback, especially not Cam Newton, is ever going to bring back to the New England Patriots.
Steve, I think it's a little unfair to Tom Brady. Maybe he doesn't agree with this, but he's 43 years old. He's old. So when it comes to that, I don't know if any coach in the league could make him, perform as he was when he was once with the Patriots. When it comes to Bill Belichick, I mean, you look at this roster. This is not a good roster by any means. You give Bill a decent roster, a decent some weapons on the offense, I have no doubt in my mind Bill Belichick would be able to perform without Tom Brady. This roster's so bad that the fact that they have a few wins, honestly, is impressive in its own. But Bill Belichick, don't get me wrong, this guy is the greatest coach of all time, and he has nothing. Both of them have nothing to prove to anyone, or they shouldn't at least. But when you look at Bill Belichick, he could still do it. There's no question about it.
I mean, like, why do we have to compare them all the time? We have the greatest coach of all time. We have the greatest quarterback of all time. Obviously, if you have the greatest coach of all time and the greatest quarterback of all time, and you put them together, they're going to be fucking amazing. They're not as great on their own, obviously, but they're still great in their own aspects. Bill Belichick, it looks bad this year. Everyone's saying, oh, wow, Tom was way more important to the Patriots than Bill Belichick. But he went to the Buccaneers, who were primed with what they have in offense in Bruce Arians and that improving defense to have an actual quarterback come in there and find success. The Patriots, with Cam Newton going to them, they were not primed for success. Their number one receiver was an aging Julian Edelman, who's now dead. Their defense is not what it was last year. Their offensive line is not what it was last year. Their running game is not what it was last year. So Bill Belichick has been handed a lot worse of a hand than Tom Brady has in 2020. So you can't compare them off of half a season and say, oh, so it was all Tom Brady all along. That's not how it is. So I think Bill has a longer future in the NFL than Tom Brady does. I think Tom's only got a few more years before it really catches up. It has to catch up to him eventually. He's, 43 years old? So
43. Yeah.
I don't know if Tom Brady will win a Super Bowl with the Buccaneers. I don't know. I don't think Bill Belichick will win another Super Bowl with the Patriots because I don't know who his quarterback's going to be. So until that happens, I'm not going to have the most confidence in him. But they're both the greatest of all time to ever do it. So I'm sick and tired of everyone comparing the two. That's all it's been in 2020 is constantly comparing the two. I'm over this.
Now, Pablo, that might be the greatest comparison I've ever heard from sports to dessert food. That was, I don't know how you thought of that. That was poetic justice right there. And you two, Bill Belichick builds these rosters. This is his roster. He's the GM too there. And he dealt himself his own hand. And he like he said himself, he sold out to win win those games, to have the success he had. Now he is paying for for the victories he had in the NFL salary cap league. Eventually, it's all going to catch up to you. It's all going to catch up to you eventually. The trades, the draft picks, trades. You're not going to hit on every late draft pick you have. It's all going to catch up to him. And you'll see this year, hopefully it's the worst Bill Belichick, and next year he can get back on the horse. I think, Andrew, I know you hate comparing it, but you're going to hear it from everybody else the rest of the year until one of these teams, until they both retire. But Bill Belichick, to get a fair shake, of course Brady may look better in the beginning because he's walking into a situation where it's a better situation for him. Bill Belichick stepped in shit right here this year. And until next year, the year after that, until he gets a chance to rebuild that foundation that he tore down to try to win those Super Bowls, then it's going to be unfair to judge him. But of course, we're in the media business here. We got to compare the two. So I think Pablo's comparison about the Oreo cookie, that was a good one too. But I think Brady, I think you'll see him have more success early on. Shorter career right now. He'll be out of the NFL long before Belichick proves his worth again. And we'll never get that illustrious Patriots, Buccaneers, Brady, Belichick Super Bowl that we all want to see. We all want those 2 weeks. I know Andrew does. We all want those 2 weeks leading up to the Super Bowl where that's all we talk about. So I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but it definitely is an interesting thing to talk about. Let's go to NFL Week 10 here. Thursday Night Football. Let's make some picks. Indianapolis Colts at the Tennessee Titans. The Titans are 2-point favorites. The Colts, they burned me last week. I was the only one to pick them. Any of you riding with the Colts against the Titans this week?
I don't think this is a shoo-in for the Titans, but I know they kept it close against Baltimore last week. This Indianapolis team just irks me. Phillip Rivers doesn't look right in Indianapolis. I know he had a good game, but I can't pick them to beat Tennessee. I think Tennessee has a lot of holes. They're not as good as they were to start the season. I think that was a little bit misleading. But I do think they have enough to beat the Indianapolis Colts and Grandpa Rivers.
Yeah, the Titans aren't what they were last year. They're still a good team, but when you look at that Colts defense, I think Tannehill and that offense are gonna have a few problems. I think it's gonna be a low scoring game, but overall, I would give the Titans the edge because like Andrew said, I don't know if Philip Rivers and that, those offensive weapons, it's just not working out right now. That great. I mean, you have that great offensive line, you have that defense that's performing pretty damn well, and they just can't get it done. So that's all on your quarterback and your weapons around you. So I'm going to take the Titans here. Low scoring game, close game, but Titans.
Now, for every reason that Andrew said he doesn't believe in the Colts, I'm going to take that and I'm going to spin it. I think that Grandpa Rivers does have an excellent game this week, and I think that they actually do end up winning this week. And I'll tell you what, they don't call me, the curse of Pablo for nothing. All my picks, they always go wrong. So I'm tired of going with the eyes. I'm tired of picking and piggybacking on you guys. I'm going to make a bold prediction, and I'm going to say the Colts are going to win this week.
Makes me feel a lot better about my pick. Thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was on kind of either side, but I got to go with the Titans now with the curse of Pablo on the Colts. Give me the Titans. They've proven this season they can fight through adversity, fight through short weeks. Coming off a win against Chicago, they win Thursday Night Football in Nashville. Next game here, my New York Giants hosting the Philadelphia Eagles at MetLife Stadium. Eagles 3.5-point favorites on the road. Who you got in this one?
Well, this is the Giants and Eagles' most important game of the season right now, it looks like, because there is major division implications on this game. Philadelphia has to win here convincing. They not that they're going to, but they have to. They got to prove that they're a better team than they have been all year. And getting only 3.5 points against the Giants on the road is, I mean, the Eagles should be embarrassed here. They got to really perform. I'm going to go with the Eagles. I'm going to go with that 3.5 because it's time for the Eagles to wake up. If they can't get this game done and the Giants do win this game, I mean, why not the Giants winning the division? Honestly, I'll start drinking the blue Kool-Aid at that point because the Eagles really have to come to New York and just blow the doors open.
Yeah, this is a really big game for the Eagles. I mean, the Giants at 2-7, I know I get the Kool-Aid and I get how bad Washington and I get how bad Dallas is, but even if the Giants win this game, I still don't think there's still a long shot to pass the Eagles in the long run. This is their last game to play against them. They'll still be 2 games back in the loss column, even if they win this game. But it's not going to get to that point because I do think the Eagles win this game. I think the Eagles are finally getting a little bit healthier. They have the emergence of Travis Fulgham. They have Jalen Reagor back from injury. They maybe have Alshon Jeffrey if it even matters. But, I mean, Wentz had his worst game of the season last week. They're going into the bye week. Miles Sanders coming back. They're at home. They're on the road, right? It's in New York. Yeah. Okay. I don't think it matters that much. They've played fine in New York the past couple of years. Giants haven't beat them in 7 games. Philly wins again this week. Wouldn't be the most shocking thing in the world because they have looked awful this year, and the Giants have been looking a lot better the last few weeks than they did to start the season. But I do think the Eagles win. I do think the Eagles cover.
Well, Steve, I'll let you go last. Man, this probably is one of the worst divisions I've ever seen. Might be the worst division in history for any sport. I don't think the Giants win this week. Look, I personally think that the Giants would be right alongside the Jets if it weren't for the Washington football team. Their only 2 wins are against that Washington football team. And the Eagles, they're a far superior team than the New York Jets, than the New York Giants, regardless of their flaws. So I'm going to go with the Eagles here. Expect them to cover. That's my pick right there.
It's time. It is time for the New York Giants to beat the Philadelphia Eagles. Simple as that. Time is up. Time is up. The New York Giants have to win this game. This is a must-win game for a 2-7 team playing a meaningful game in November against their heated division rival that they haven't beat in 3 fucking years. The New York Giants, it's time to finally exercise your demons and beat the Eagles. Finally, it's time. And I'm going to predict them to win this game because I really do think they will. Patrick Graham has this defense playing out of their minds, punching above their weight so much. They don't have a dominant pass rusher on this team. Leonard Williams had 1 sack last year. 1. I think he had 1 sack the year before that. 5.5 sacks this year. The guy is playing out of his mind. Maybe he's just playing out for a new contract, but I really do think he's more motivated, and he's looked fantastic. You also have a secondary playing way above their weight. If they can play one more game against the Eagles receiving core, that is nothing to me. The Giants, they've shut them down really until the last 6 minutes of the game last time. So I really do think the secondary, one more game and Xavier McKinney comes back. Logan Ryan, Jabril Peppers coming off their best games of the year. I think they hold their weight. And I do think Daniel Jones, he played great against the Eagles the first game. Would have had a win if it wasn't for Evan Ingram off his hands. But I really do think coming off the best game he's had all year, where he didn't turn over the ball, held onto the ball on that huge blindside hit with 2 minutes left in the game. I was waiting for that ball to come out. I think he's going to play well at home against the Eagles. And I think Joe Judge beats his childhood favorite team for the first time and really cements himself as the head coach of the New York Giants, because they're finally going to beat the Eagles this week. I guarantee it.
Just a little tidbit is that the Giants defense, they played well last week. They had 5 turnovers, and the Giants won by 3 points against the Washington football team.
Yeah.
So it was a win. It's nice to see them win again against the Washington football team. But I mean, I don't know. They didn't look great last week. There are 2 wins this year. They haven't looked great. They've been competitive in their losses, but they also aren't dominating in any of their wins. So they're scrappy. I'll give them that. But Eagles going to win, Steve. I'm sorry.
Let's look at the Eagles wins. We don't got time to go look at all those Eagles wins because those aren't pretty either. Next game here I got on the pick board here. Let's go to Tampa Bay. They're traveling to Carolina to face the Panthers. Tom Brady coming off the big loss we just talked about. 5-point favorites going to Carolina, who may or may not have Christian McCaffrey. Who's winning this game?
I hope they have Christian McCaffrey. I could use him this week in fantasy football. But if Christian McCaffrey plays that game, honestly, I like the Panthers plus 5.5. I think the Panthers they're a good team. I mean, you look at this week against the Chiefs. They played very well against the Chiefs, and maybe in part to Christian McCaffrey, how great he was and how great he played. But overall, this Panthers team is no joke compared to what we thought they were going to be coming into this part of the season. So I might even pick the Panthers here. I'll go with the Buccaneers, but I like the spread a lot more with the Panthers plus 5.5, because the Panthers are a good team, man. I don't know what to say. The Buccaneers, I don't know what the hell that was last week. Maybe that was an anomaly of what they are, but the Panthers are a lot better than people think.
The Panthers are a lot better than people think, but you look at last week and they arguably should have beat Kansas City in Kansas City. So that's even in a loss, their most impressive performance of the year. The Buccaneers easily with their worst performance of the year. I think the Panthers overachieved a lot last week, and I think the Buccaneers underachieved a lot last week. So I think the Buccaneers get a get-right game. Spread's only, 5 points? And if they cover that spread, I think Tom Brady bounces back in a big way. Antonio Brown's second game acclimated into the offense. I think that offense would be humming a lot better than it did against the Saints. So against a little bit weaker competition, I think in division, you never know. So it's not a lock. Carolina can easily build off the momentum of last week and win. But I don't think that's how it goes. I think Tom Brady bounces back and Bucs have a big win.
Wow. To me, this is the most obvious game here. The Bucs are going to absolutely destroy, and I mean destroy, the Panthers here. And I don't even think it's going to be close. I think they're going to blow them out. I think they're going to come out on top. It's going to be sort of a revenge game, because I'll tell you what, that was some ugly game, and it's probably my worst prediction of the year, thinking that Tom Brady and the Buccaneers were going to, beat up on the Saints. And look, it didn't happen that way. The Saints, they must have been listening to the podcast. Like, you know what? We're going to prove Pablo wrong. And I think Tom Brady's listening to this podcast right now, wherever he is. And they're going to win, and they're going to blow out the Panthers. And it's not even going to be close.
I'm sure that the Saints and the Buccaneers got Pablo's face and his quotes right on their bulletin board. Guarantee that that's what we're looking at right there. I'm going to go with the Buccaneers here. Keep it simple because they are the better team. Like Andrew said, I think the Panthers, they played underwhelmingly and played overwhelmingly last week, and the Buccaneers played the opposite. I think we both get back to the median here this week, and the Buccaneers take care of business as they should against the Panthers. 4 o'clock window. We have a game that many people didn't circle on their calendars to be a good game at the beginning of the year. Looks like it will be the Buffalo Bills at the Arizona Cardinals. I believe it's a pick 'em here. So who you got?
Am I going first?
Yes.
Buddy.
I mean, well, you look at the Cardinals last week. Kyler Murray had a incredible performance against the Bills defense. Maybe it won't be as sound. The Bills are a better team. There's no question about that. The Bills are the favorite in the AFC East right now. The Cardinals have been playing well enough to put themselves in a close race for that division, but I think it's going to start trending downwards their season. Arizona, I don't know if Kenyon Drake's going to be back this week. I don't think he is. Not that that's the difference maker for this game. However, the Arizona Cardinals, I think, have overperformed this year. Kyler Murray has been absolutely spectacular. Not saying he can't continue this streak, but it is more unlikely that he continues not playing as well as he has been for a second-year quarterback, because he is, I understand the year Russell Wilson's having right now, but Kyler Murray's got to be up there in MVP voting as well. So I'm going to take the Bills here. I think the Bills need to have a pretty good win this week, because going to Arizona, that's a tough place to play going across the country. So not that it's tough, there's no fans, but it's tough to go across the country is what I mean. So I'm still going to take the Bills.
I mean, you look at the Cardinals in this season, every time they look really good and they're really impressive, they end up laying on a stinker. They lost to the Lions after they started 2-0. They beat Seattle, and now they lost to the Dolphins at home. So they're really Jekyll and Hyde, and I have no confidence in picking them ever, because they could beat almost any team in the NFL. And there's a lot of teams this year that can beat almost any team in the NFL and lose to almost any team in the NFL. That's how crazy this season has been. But, again, I'm sticking with fuck the Bills. Cardinals are going to win.
I'm probably going to have to go with the Bills here. Number one, the Bills team, they're riding a hot streak right now. I could see the momentum sort of coming along for this Bills team. And the Cardinals, look, they're a little engine that could. Nobody really expected them to be at the top of that division, and they are nearing the top. They're one of the best teams in that division, and right next to the Seahawks, they're a team that are probably going to be good for a very long time. But I don't see them winning. I do think it's going to be a close game, and I would not put any money on this. That's how close I think it's going to be. But the Bills are going to come out on top here.
Give me the Bills here. I think they match up really well with the Cardinals. I think it's very similar to that Seahawks game. They have a defense who cannot stop the pass. Look at what they let Tua do. And they have an offense that can score points, but the Bills have a great defense. Give me the Bills to win this game. Similar fashion to this Seahawks game. I know it's on the road, but I think we're going to win this game, and they deserve some respect from us because we all played against them last week, and they took care of business against the Seahawks. So I'm going to give them their respect. They earned my pick this week. Give me the Bills. Next game here. Let's make it quick. We're running out of time here. Seahawks at the Rams. Rams 1.5-point favorites. That's not what you expected last week. Who are you picking here?
I'm taking Seattle here. It's going to be a close game. No, the spread dictates that. It shows that. But like you said, the Seahawks were a shocker that they didn't win last week. But, I mean, you can't win every game, and the Bills are a great team. Not that the Rams are not, but I think the Seahawks are going to get back on track this week and beat Los Angeles.
Yeah, Seahawks money line. I don't like this 1.5 spread for the Rams. The Rams had, for a team with 5 wins in the year, I don't think they look good at all. I think they've been a little bit underperforming this year. They've been kind of a mess on offense. They've been a little bit better of late, but their defense is still one of the best in the league. But I think Seattle, it's hard to trust them, but they seem to play a close game every week. So I don't think they're going to blow out the Rams, but I do think they'll win this game. So them as an underdog against a team that they usually beat, they usually take care of business against the Rams. So I do think they win this game as an underdog.
Yeah, this is very surprising having this team as the underdog. The Seahawks, I don't think there's been a week where I haven't chose them. They're my team. They have the greatest quarterback in the league. He's top two. He's top two, but whatever. I see the Seahawks winning this week.
I think the Seahawks got exposed big time last week. I do believe that if they do not learn how to play defense over these next couple of weeks, that they are not going to do anything in the playoffs, because that's what you need to do in the playoffs. And the Seahawks, when they've lost, even when they've won, they have not played good defense. They have by far the worst pass defense in the entire NFL, and that's including the Jets. Sorry, Andrew.
I don't know what you hate to see. You hate to see a team trade 2 first-round picks for a safety and still have a bottom 5 defense. You just hate to see it.
I believe it's the worst in the entire league, honestly. But so I'm going to go with the Rams here. You give Sean McVay a bye week to figure out this defense. I think that he's going to be able to do it. That's the brightest offensive mind in the entire league besides Andy Reid. And the Rams defense, not shabby, man. They have a good defense. I think that Jalen Ramsey can really stick with DK Metcalf. They have speed on the outside, on the other side against Tyler Lockett as well. Good pass rush, good linebackers. I think that the Rams, they can really make that spread hold up. I'm going to be the one to pick them. I think that they're going to get the win this Sunday. Sunday Night Football, Ravens, Patriots. Ravens, 7-point favorites at Gillette. That's got to hurt Patriots fans seeing that. Who's going to win Sunday night's game?
Well, this is a good game for Lamar to go to, Gillette. Not a place that he's anyone's have had success in these last 20 years to go to. But it's a good game for Lamar to play, in a hard spot against a storied franchise and come out with a win. And that's what Lamar needs. I mean, that Colts game was not convincing. That offense did not look good. I think they put up 24 points, but it still did not look good for the Ravens. They got to really look in the mirror here and go to New England and try to get a great win, because no matter what, when a team is going to play the Patriots, they're still going to play as hard as they can just because it is the Patriots. So the Ravens need to come into this game acting like it's a huge game for them, blow out the Patriots, and get a lot of momentum moving forward.
The Ravens really need this game. I mean, the Patriots at 3-5, their hopes of winning the division are very, very slim. They're behind the Dolphins now. They can squeak into a wild card if they play better than they did against the Jets. But watching them should have lost to the Jets on Monday Night Football. Bill Belichick is always showing up in prime time. So the fact that they laid a stinker, they put up the victory, but they looked awful against the Jets. So I think the Ravens, I still think there's a lot left to be desired with this Ravens team. I think they're a lot better than they've shown lately. They have to turn up to that next gear. Lamar Jackson, reigning MVP, has to figure it out a little bit. So I think they inch closer to getting back to what they were last year, and I think they win this game big in prime time.
Yeah, Andrew, I'm going to piggyback on what you said. To me, this is going to be a game for Lamar Jackson to sort of increase his stats. This is going to be a video game performance from Lamar Jackson. He is my pick. Now, I'm going to bring you back to what would you used to say, Dan? Danny D's lock of the week. This is my Pablo P lock of the week. I think that Lamar Jackson is going to put on a performance for the ages this Sunday, and you guys heard it here first.
Oh, boy.
I think you're all wrong. I think that the Patriots, I know that they laid a stinker on Monday, but Cam Newton comes to play when it's prime time. He played well yesterday. He played well Sunday Night Football against the Seahawks. I think the Patriots come out, shock the world at home. I think they're going to win this game. I don't like what the Ravens have looked like this year. I think that they've really taken a big step back. Greg Roman, he was getting head coaching calls last year. Ain't nobody going to want him as their head coach next year. He has not looked good calling those plays this year. Maybe it's been the no preseason and everything to get right again, but they just don't seem right. They should have lost to the Colts. They lost to the Steelers. They have laid a lot of stinkers this year too. They've skated by on the by their teeth, and I should have lost the Eagles too. It was that close. Give me the Patriots. Shock the world. Bill Belichick will have these guys ready after how they just played against the Jets. Patriots win this game. Final game of the week, Monday Night Football. Vikings versus the Bears. Vikings 2.5-point favorites on the road. Who's winning this game?
Why does Vegas favor the Vikings? I don't understand this at all. It doesn't make any sense. When's the last time the Vikings have beat the Bears? It's got to be so long ago, a few years ago. The Bears are a better team this year. The Vikings are not a good team, and they're favored on the road in prime time with Kirk Cousins. I don't understand where this is coming from. I understand Dalvin Cook has been back-to-back probably Pablo player of the weeks. These last 2 weeks, he's been unbelievable. I don't even know if Adrian Peterson has put up numbers that he has done in these last 2 weeks because it has been that impressive. He single-handedly destroyed the Packers. And then last week, you look at his numbers. They were video game-like Pablo just alluded with Lamar Jackson this week. So Dalvin Cook has to be that engine that runs this team. And against the Bears, he never has been because the Bears defense has just always shut us down. There's no way in hell that I would ever take the Vikings -2.5 this week. Please take the Bears +2.5. Just please do it.
I've never seen the Bears under Matt Nagy look as lost as they do on offense. I get it. I get the Vikings. This is the worst Vikings team we've seen in the past few years, but this is the best football they've played in a while. They have never run the football. They've always been a good running football team. They have never been this good of a running football team. You look at their last few weeks, and the opponent knew they're running the football, and they still ran for 200 yards a game. I think that's special, and that's hard to do. So I think as long as Dalvin Cook is running the way he was the last few weeks, the way you beat the Bears is by running the football. I know the Titans, that recipe didn't really work. Derrick Henry didn't have a great game. But I think Monday Night Football, if you don't ask Kirk Cousins to do much, I think he has a chance against this Bears defense. If Kirk Cousins has to throw the ball more than 20, 25 times, the Vikings lose this game. But if you can control the game and you can run the ball with Dalvin Cook, then they have a shot at beating this Bears defense. Just because you don't have to do much. As long as Kirk Cousins doesn't lose them in the game, Nick Foles ain't winning the game. So I think the Vikings can control this game, and I think they will win. I'm sorry, Dan. The non-Vikings fan has to be the optimist here.
I'm going to go with the Bears here. And look, I have no clue. Honestly, Dan, I agree 100% with you. I have no clue why they are the underdog in this game. And if I were a betting man, if I were in Vegas, I would 100% put money on the Bears. And I think, I don't know, man, the Vikings, they just don't impress me. They don't impress me. And Dan, I'm sorry I have to tell you that, but your team sucks. And the Bears are going to win this Monday.
Pablo, no longer a betting man after his $50 MLB playoff parlays, I see. Give me the Bears to win this game because Kirk Cousins in prime time is the opposite of good. He's very bad. And they're going to lose that game because of him. Not because of Dalvin Cook. He's been phenomenal. But the Bears defense are going to force Kirk Cousins to beat him. The Bears have Cousins' number. Primetime games has Cousins' number. It's over for the Vikings. They're not going to run the gamut of winning against every NFC North team. They beat the Packers. They beat the Lions. Ain't going to beat the Bears this week. The Bears end the streak right there. And that ends our NFL Week 10 picks right there. Let's get to our questions real quick to end the show here. First question comes from Joe Pucciarello, and he wants to know if Dave Gettleman will get any credit for putting the dumpster fire out in New York, or is it still burning hot?
Put what dumpster fire out? They're 2-7. The New York Football Giants are 2-7. They're 2-7. What have they done to show you that it's not a dumpster fire anymore? If they somehow make the playoffs and win the division at 6-10, are you going to throw a parade for Dave Gettleman? No, you're not. He's done nothing until he actually builds a winner, or else not praise the man. Yeah, he's 2-7. They beat the Washington football team twice. Give him a 10-year extension. Why don't you?
Yeah. Please just have the Giants beat someone other than the Redskins. Then we could talk. All right.
Not even the Redskins anymore. The WFT.
Sorry.
You only beat the team who has no name.
Yeah, Dave Gettleman. He won't get any credit yet from anybody because he's had the worst record in GM history
all football
so far. And he's had way too many misses as opposed to hits. If he gets another year, I will be completely shocked. And the credit he'll get will be for going 10-31 as a GM. I think Andrew summed it up pretty perfectly there with that response, that emotional response. Let's go right back to Andrew here. We got a Jets question from Kevin Green. Do they trade Sam Darnold, or is he the future of the Jets?
I think there are not many situations where they don't trade Sam Darnold. Because if you finish 0-16, 1-15, and you have the number 1, number 2 pick, you're going to draft a quarterback. It's so hard not to draft a quarterback. Joe Douglas isn't going to get cute and trade away the number 1 and number 2 pick to accumulate draft picks. Some would say that you can build a roster around Sam Darnold and be successful with him. Sam Darnold has shown flashes of being a competent quarterback, even a great quarterback. But he's taken a big step back this year. You can blame that on Adam Gase. You can blame that on the weapons. But the matter of fact is that Sam Darnold has not looked good. No matter, he's missing throws that are there for him. He's taking bad sacks. He's throwing bad interceptions still. He hasn't improved on last year. He hasn't improved on his rookie year. He looks worse now in year 3 than he did his rookie year. That's a problem. So I think if you have a number 1, number 2 pick and you can get Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields, you have to draft a quarterback, and then you're not going to sit on Sam Darnold in his 4th year of his rookie contract when teams are calling QB-needy teams who think they can bring the best out of Sam Darnold for a second-round pick. You're going to trade them. So there's no point of holding on to him if you have a rookie quarterback. So I think in all likelihood they're going to trade Sam Darnold unless they somehow win 3-4 games down the stretch. I mean, Sam Darnold looks better than he did all of last year or his rookie year.
Now, number 1, if the Jets continue on their losing ways and they end up with a number 1 or number 2 pick, you have to think that Trevor Lawrence is going to go number 1. Now, look, let's say he goes back to school, or let's say the Jets win maybe 2 games or whatever. Then you might reconsider, because then you might not be able to draft the quarterback that you all thought you could have. So I do think that this is a sort of play it by ear sort of thing, but you have to expect that they are going to be heavy favorites to land Trevor Lawrence.
Sam Darnold could potentially be a very good quarterback in the league. It just will not be as a member of the New York Jets. His time's up. His time is up in the Jets. You don't get this much time to prove yourself in the NFL. Sam Darnold, 3 touchdown passes on the year. Joe Flacco, 3 touchdown passes yesterday. That says all you need to say about Adam Gase. Sam Darnold just didn't work. And the Jets, did they ruin him? Yeah, they probably ruined him. He was a great prospect. But guess what? That's what happens when you go to a bad situation in the NFL. It happened to Vince Young. It happened to Matt Leinart. It's happening to Sam Darnold. Let's just hope that they right the situation before they get a new guy like Trevor Lawrence or Justin Fields in there for Jets fans' sanity's sake. I know Andrew needs a good quarterback in there. Next questions come from PK Patel. I'll answer these real quick as they're Giants questions. He says, should Gettleman be fired for losing the Trevor/Fields/Trey Lance Bowl Sunday? He should be fired for a lot of different reasons. That is not one of them. You never play to lose in the NFL. And he says, do you think Louis Riddick could replace Dave Gettleman? No. He lost the job to him 4 to 3 years ago. They're not gonna go back in time and give it to him. I think if Louis Riddick was ever gonna get an NFL GM job, it would have happened already. He's interviewed a bunch of different places, and I think it's lazy to assume that he'll be an NFL GM when there's so many great candidates out there right now. Seems like a great guy, very knowledgeable guy, but I think he's better off as more of an assistant than a real NFL GM. Question from Chris Hauber: why do the Bills get no credit? It's always the other team didn't play well, not that they played a great game.
Well, you're from Buffalo. That's one. You're not a big market team. When you compare to whoever you play against, the Seahawks, like last week, the Seahawks are a bigger team. You know, whenever they play the Patriots are a bigger team. All I'm saying is the Bills haven't been good for a while. I don't know if many people are discounting the Bills more than just going after other teams that they've played, to be honest. I think the Bills are a good team. I just think, you know, when they play all these games that have been so close against opponents, they should have lost some of them, first of all. And second of all, it shows that they have some holes. Not saying they're a bad team. All of these NFL teams have holes. But when it comes to the Bills, there's a few things that need to be touched up on. I think they're going to probably win the division. So, like, let's pump the brakes on all the Bills hate. They're going to win this division, and they're going to go to the playoffs. So let's pump the brakes a little bit.
The Bills get a lot of hate, mainly from myself. So that's not going to stop. But around the league, they don't get the benefit of the doubt because they haven't been a winner in the past. They made the playoffs last year, and they laid it out against Houston. Until they actually have sustained success, they're not going to get the benefit of the doubt against a team like the Seahawks, who have won Super Bowls in our lifetime or in any lifetime. So until that happens, they're going to keep getting disrespected.
Yeah, I think the Bills, you can talk all you want about the potential they have, but you just have to see it. They made the playoffs 2 years ago last year, but they took the L against the Texans. They lost to the Jaguars. You got to see some of that sustained success and that they're not a flash in the pan. And I do think they will get their respect when they win the division this year. Next question comes from Ryan Swanton. He wants to know if the Miami Dolphins, staying in the AFC East here, are for real.
I think they're for real in the sense that they can lean on their defense a little bit. They're one of the teams where they're going to be hurt in the playoffs if they make it as a wild card team, having a rookie quarterback under center who isn't experienced. So don't expect them to go on some magical run where he's the first rookie quarterback to make the Super Bowl. But could they upset a higher seed because riding their defense? I think they can. I think their defense is playing lights out. Brian Flores is a defensive-minded coach. You got Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. That's his name. Yeah.
Xavier Howard.
That defense is playing lights out
Xavier
lately. I know they didn't play great against Arizona, but as a whole, that defense has been really impressive. So that's the formula you want for a team to go into the playoffs as an underdog. So I think they can be a little bit of a sneaky team.
Yeah, for real with the Miami Dolphins, like I just said before, let's pump the brakes on that too. The Miami Dolphins have a lot to prove. They are a rebuilding team. Let's remind people of that fact. They are rebuilding. They still have a lot of draft picks. They said draft capital. Let's pump the brakes here. They're gonna be a good team down the road, but for this year and saying they're for real or contenders, let them play the rest of the season. Even if they don't make the playoffs, who's gonna say this was a disappointing season? If they get 7 wins this season, who says this is a disappointing season for the Miami Dolphins? No one. They're a rebuilding team, so let them overachieve. Let them have their fun and overachieve. This team's going to be good within the next 3-4 years where they can contend for that NFC or AFC East title.
I believe Tua is for real. I believe that defense is for real. I believe Brian Flores is for real. So guess what? I believe the Miami Dolphins are for real. I think they're going to be a good team for a long time. I think them and the Bills are going to have a lot of fun battles we're going to see over the next couple of years. Final question of the show. Aaron Bartlett wants to know, Justin Herbert, Tua, or Joe Burrow? Which one you taking?
Justin Herbert.
Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow.
Give me Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow, easy right there. I think he's going to be the best of 3. Although Herbert looks really good, Tua looks good, I think these guys are going to be compared for a long time coming. But right now, give me Joe Burrow.
Shout out Rutgers basketball, ranked 24th in the nation.
Look at that. Unbelievable. Look behind me right there.
There you go.
Episode 39 of Before the Score. Next week, we'll be back with episode 40. We'll be over the hill there. Episode 39. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next week.